Thanks for tuning in to the spirits, the waters of blood. Today we're going to be talking about the different situations on how individuals or different individuals and their particular perception on whether Christ was real or not. All of the Bible characters are fictional characters inside of the Bible, and you can't believe in it because it's all made up or something. You know, we have different various opinions that individuals draw near, and they talk about when they do talk about different things pertaining to Holy Scripture. Then they try to take the Holy Scripture and infuse it with a whole lot of unbelievable ideologies like 6 foot or monumental sized giants walking around the earth, and they're the fallen angels and having sex with women, and you know, all kinds of fake ideologies that come about, most definitely. So we're going to talk about today where, you know, it was a witness to Yahushua actually walking this earth. Yahushua, or Jesus, is going to be, his name is going to be referred to in this particular sense as Jesus, because we're going to be talking about one of the witnesses that have an account for his particular existence during that particular time, and it's a long one. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. The water, Yahweh, Hashem, Hamashiach, Yahushua, Uvein Baraka, Ruach, Kodeshecha. Thanks again for tuning in to the spirits, the waters, and the blood. Mataya Hawada, Barakata, Shabbat Shalom, Marachim, Mishpacha. I hope you have a real blessed Sabbath today. So now I'm going to go ahead and go into this one particular individual and his particular claim as his particular account on Yahushua's existence here on this earth. Some individuals say that they don't know if it's original or complete, or if it's an actual writing of this individual, some type of forgery or what have you. But in any case, I can't speak on its authenticity. I mean, really, I can't, because I know about it, and it's been well-known documented. So that's why I'm basically bringing it out. And a lot of individual churches and individuals don't bring it up in this particular anyway to individuals, or even talk about it. So at least to talk about it, I figured I'll just go ahead and bring it up. And, you know, alert my family on to what's going on. Thanks again for tuning in. Please take the time out to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification to help the Father's frequency word get out there, you know, amongst other fellow YouTubers. Please take the time out to like. It doesn't cost anything. I think it's free when you like something. And just to show support, please, can you take the time out? You can leave a comment, whether it's something good or bad. I'll address it, most definitely. The water, Tawara, Yahweh, Hashem, Hamashiach, Yahushua, Uvein Baraka, Ruach, Kodeshecha. So now I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen on this, and then we'll go ahead and get into it. Let's move me over here for a second. Okay. Alright. According to a recent newspaper, a letter from Pontius Pilate to the Emperor Tiberius was found in Liverpool. In this letter, Pilate informs the emperor of the circumstances of Jesus' crucifixion, or the one that they ignorantly call Jesus. Jesus' crucifixion, Jesus' crucifixion, or in his Hebrew name, Yahushua's, not Isaiah, not Yeshaya. Isaiah is Yeshaya. Anyway, so basically they're talking about Yahushua, Jesus' crucifixion. He had tried hard to save Jesus' life from the fury of the Jews. Alright, so now we see that there's information out here on the internet about the historical letter written by Pontius Pilate to Tiberius Caesar. Will I go into here? I'll go ahead and to the PDF. I'm going straight to the PDF. Is this the... No, this is not the one that I want. This is the partial of it. Oh, you'll find the form of it inside of the Bible Hub. Let me shrink me a little bit. There we go. The letter Pontius Pilate, which he wrote to his Roman emperor concerning our Lord, or our Hamashiach, Yahushua Christ, or the Anointed. The letter of Pontius Pilate concerning our Messiah, Hamashiach, Yahushua. Variation unknown. Pontius Pilate to Tiberius Caesar, the emperor, greeting. Upon Yahushua's Christ, Hamashiach Yahushua, Hamashiach Yahushua, whose case I clearly set forth to thee in my last. At length, by the will of the people, a bitter punishment has been inflicted. Myself being unwilling and rather afraid, a man by Hercules of power, a man of power of Hercules, so pious and strict, no age has ever had, nor will ever have. But wonderful were the efforts of the people themselves, and the amenity of all the scribes and the chiefs, or scribes and chief men and elders, to crucify this ambassador of truth, notwithstanding that their own prophets, and after all our manner, the syllabus, warned them against it, and supernatural signs appeared while he was hanging, and in the opinion of philosophers threatened destruction to the whole world. His disciples are flourishing in their works, or in their work and regulation of their lives, not belying their masters, or not relying on their masters, not belying on their masters. Yea, in his name most benefit. In his name most benefit. Had I not been afraid of the rising of a sedition among the people who were just on the point of breaking out, perhaps this man would still have been alive to us. Although urged more by fidelity to the dignity than induced by my own wishes. Urged more by fidelity to thy dignity than induced by my own wishes, I did not, according to my strength, resist the innocent blood free from the whole charge brought against it, but unjustly, through the megality of men, should be sold and suffer, yet as the scriptures signify, to their own destruction. Farewell on March 28th, or the 28th of March. Then I'm gonna go ahead and go to another site. I thought it was this one, but I'm gonna scroll down a little bit more. Let's look at this. Let's go back to, I'm gonna go ahead and go to let's go here. It's not this one. I had the whole PDF. Let me take my time and just see if I can find it. Okay, this is what was listed in Bible Hub. Okay. This is the one. This is the PDF on it right here. See if I can blow it up a little bit bigger. Oh yeah, okay. Looks like it may want to rain today on this beautiful Sabbath day. So let's go ahead and Alright, historical letter written by Pontius Pilate to Tiberius Caesar. I have in my possession a copy of the letter by Pontius Pilate to Tiberius Caesar, Emperor of Rome. This historical letter by Pontius Pilate to Tiberius Caesar letter is the archaic volume containing manuscripts in Constantinople and the records of the senatorial document or docket taken from the library at Rome, translated by Doctors Mishtosh and Tawaman of the Antiquarian Lodge, Gonio, Italy. This has been taken this has been checked and is according with the copy of the original log in the British Museum, which has verified the accuracy of the transcription, verified in November 1935. Historical letter resurrected. Pilate's lengthy letter to Tiberius discusses at large or at length the arrest, the trial, and the crucifixion of Hamashiach Yahweh. Tiberius Caesar, Emperor of Rome, noble foreign. Greeting. The event of the Salafi. This is Pontius Pilate. The events of the greetings, the events of the last few days in my province have been such a character that I will give the details in full as they occurred. As I should not be surprised if, in the course of time, that may challenge the destiny of our nation. For it seems of late that all the gods have ceased to be prosperous. I am almost ready to say, prosperous. I am almost ready to say, cursed be the day that I succeeded Valerius Falcis in the government of Judea. Cursed be that day. For since then my life has been nothing of continual unease and distress since that day. On my arrival at Jerusalem, I took possession of the Patrium and ordered a splendid feast to be prepared, to which I invited the Tetrarch of Galilee, or the Tetrarch of Galilee, with the high priest and his officers. At the appointed hour, no guest appeared. This I consider an insult offered by dignity and the whole government which I represent. He considered it an insult and a dignity in the whole government that he represents. A few days later, the high priest designed to pay me a visit. His deportment was grave and deceitful. He pretended that his religion forbade him. He pretended that his religion forbade him and his attendants to sit at the table of Rome and eat of the officer libation with them. But this was only a sanctimonious seeming, for his very contentious betrayal of hypocrisy. Although I thought it expedient to accept this excuse for that moment, I was convinced that the conquered had declared themselves the enemy of the conquerors. I would warn the Romans to beware of the high priest of this country. They would betray their own mother to gain office and a luxurious living. They would be these high priests, the high priests of this country, Judea. They will betray their own mother to gain office and gain luxurious living. It seems to me, of conquered cities, Jerusalem is the most difficult to govern. So turbulent are the people that I live in momentary dread of an insurrection. I have not soldiers sufficient to suppress it. I had only one centurion and 100 men at my camp command. I requested a reinforcement from the perfect of Syria. From the perfect, he requested help from Assyria, who informed me that he had scarcely troops sufficient to defend his own province and instigate thirst for conquest to extend our empire beyond the means of defending it. I fear, will the cause of the final overthrow of the whole government I live scheduled for the mass, for I did not know what those priests might influence the rabble to do. Yet I endeavor to ascertain as far as I could the mind and withstanding of the people. So he's trying to keep his composure. I was told it was Yahushua. Among the various rumors that came to my ears, there was one in particular that attracted my attention. A young man, it was said, appeared in Galilee preaching with a whole noble uncision a new law in the name of Allahia who sat him. At first I was apprehensive. That he designed, or his design was to stir up the people amongst the Romans. But my fears were soon dispelled. Yahushua of Nazareth spoke rather as a friend of the Romans than of the Jews. On one day, in a passing by the place of Silo, where there was a great concourse of people. There was a great concourse of people. I observed in the midst of the group of young men who sat leaning against a tree, calmly addressing the multitude. I was told it was Yahushua. This I could easily have suspected. So great was the differences between him and those listening to him. His golden colored hair and beard gave him the appearance of a celestial aspect. His golden colored hair and beard gave him the appearance of a celestial aspect. I want to stop right there for a second. His golden colored hair. His golden colored hair. I was agreed to say my phone doesn't want to zoom. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. And keep in mind, Pontius Pilate just described Yahushua as having golden colored hair. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if you can see it. That's my grandmother. That's my grandmother. That's my little brother. That's my little brother. That's my grandmother. That's my little brother. We both have the same mother and father. Look at his hair. Look at his hair. Look at his complexion. And then look at my hair. My hair. What color is that? Is that like golden? I mean, am I mistaken, or is that not like a golden colored hair? My hair, my brother's hair, we have the same mother and father, and my hair in that golden tone, and so I can relate. I could kind of relate to what Pontius Pilate was saying. So I'm going to go ahead back and share my screen and keep it moving. Okay, just to keep it going. Alright. So I'm going to go back. There was a great, remember the hair color. Alright, so Pontius Pilate just gave a description of the hair color. There was a great concourse of people. I observed in the midst of the young man who was leaning against a tree, calmly addressing the multitude. I was told it was Yahushua or Jesus. This I could easily have suspected. So great was the difference between him and those listening to him. His golden colored hair. His golden colored hair and beard gave him the appearance of a celestial aspect. He appeared to be about 30 years old. Never have I seen a sweater or sweeter or more serene countenance. Peaceful countenance. What a contrast between him and his hearers, who were black beards, with their black beards, and tawny complexions. Salatu. And his tawny complexion. And their tawny complexions. Unwillingly to interrupt him by the presence, I continued to walk, but signified to my secretary to join the group and listen. My secretary's name is Manlius. He is the grandson of the chief of the conspiration or conspirators who were encamped in Etera waiting for Catalan. Manlius My secretary's name is Manlius, and he is the grandson of the chief of the conspirators who encamped in Etria waiting for Catalan. Manlius had been for a long time an inhabitor of Judea and is well acquainted with the Hebrew language. He was devoted to me and worthy of my confidence. On entering the Patreon or the Praetorium, I found Manlius, who related to me the words of Yahushua, or the words Yahushua had pronounced to at Sil or Salo or Soloi. Never have I read him the words of the prophecies or the philosophers, anything that can compare to the maxims of Yahushua. One of the rebellious Jews, so numerous in Jerusalem, have asked Yahushua if it was lawful to give tribute to Caesar. He replied, "Render unto Caesar the things that belong to Caesar, and unto Allahiyah the things that are Allahiyah's." I extended to him my protection. It was an account of his saying that I granted so much liberty to the Nazarene, for it was in my power to have him arrested and exiled to Pontius. But that would have been contrary to the justice which has always characterized the Roman government in all its dealings with men. This man was neither seditious nor rebellious. I extended to him my protection, unknowing perhaps to himself. He was at liberty to act, to speak, to assemble and address the people, and choose disciples unrestrained by any Patreon or mandate, or one of their Roman mandates. Should it ever happen, may the gods avert the omen. May the gods avert the omen. Should it ever happen, I say to the religion of our forefathers will be supplanted by the religion of Yahushua. I say to the religion of our forefathers will be supplanted by the religion of Yahweh Shai. It will be to this noble toleration that Rome shall own her premature death, while I, miserably wrecked, will have been the instrument of what Yahweh Shai called providence, and we call destiny. This unlimited freedom granted to Yahweh Shai provoked the Jews not the poor, but the rich and powerful. So this unlimited freedom granted to Yahweh Shai provoked the Jews by letting him speak freely. Provoked the Jews, and this was a political reason, in my opinion, for not restraining the liberty of the Nazarene. Scribes and Pharisees, he would say to them, "You are a race of vipers. You assemble painted sculpt of sepulchres. You resemble painted sepulchres. You appear well unto men, but you have death within you." And at other times he would snare at the alms of the rich and proud, telling them that the mite of the poor was more precious in the sight of Elohim. Complaints were daily made at the Praetorium against the insolence of Yahweh Shai. So the Jews was complaining, the scribes and Pharisees, the rich ones, was complaining about him, period. I was even informed that same misfortune would befall him. I was informed that some misfortune would befall him, that it would not be the first time that Jerusalem has stoned those who call themselves prophets. And appeal will be made to Caesar. However, my conduct was approved by the Senate, and I was promised a reinforcement after the termination of the Parthian War. Being too weak to suppress an insurrection, I resolved upon adopting a measure that promised to restore the tranquility of the city without subjecting the Parthian. He came. You know that in my veins flow the Spanish mixed with Roman blood. All right, Pontius Pilate say, "You know that in my veins flow Spanish mixed with Roman blood, as incapable of fear," meaning that by Spanish and Roman blood he was incapable of fear, as it is of weak emotions, fears of weak emotion. When the Nazarene made his appearance, I was walking in my baristica, and my feet seemed fastened with an iron hand to the marble pavement, and I trembled in every limb as does a guilty culprit. Though the Nazarene was as calm and as innocent himself, when he came up to me, he stopped. And by a signal sign, he seemed to say to me, "I am here." Though he spoke not a word for some time, I contemplated it with admiration and awe this extraordinary type of man, a type unknown to our numerous painters who have given for and forgive to all the Elohims of the heroes. There was nothing about him that was repelling in his character, yet I felt too awe and tremorous to approach him. That Spanish and Roman blood, he was just too, it's something that he felt that spirit of him, and he just couldn't walk up to the divinity because he knew he was that of a thief. Yahweh Shah, say I unto him at last, and my tongue faltered. Say unto him at last, and my tongue faltered. Yahweh Shah of Nazareth, for the last 3 years I have granted you ample freedom of speech, nor did I regret it. Your words are those of a sage. Your words are those of a sage. I know not whether you have read Socrates or Socrates. I know whether or not you have read Socrates or Plato, but this I know. There is in your discourse a majestic simplicity that elevates simplicity that elevates you far above those philosophers. The emperor is informed of it, and I, his humble representative in this country, am glad to have allowed you that liberty of which you are worthy. However, I must not conceal from you that your discourse have raised up against you powerful. Salathia, this is my neighbor's dogs barking, but I can continue. Nor is this surprising. Socrates had his enemies, and he fell victim of their hatred. Yours are doubtably incest. Yours are doubly incest against you on account of your discourse being so severe upon their conduct against me, and account of the liberty I have afforded you. They have accused me of being indirectly leagued with you for the purpose of depriving the Hebrews of the little civil power which Rome has left of them. My request, I did not say an order, is that you be more circumspect. You be more circumspect and moderate in your discourse in the future, and more considerate of them, lest you arouse the pride of your enemies, and they rise against you to stupid populace and compel me to employ the measures of law. Meaning that they're going to speak out against you, and then they're going to try to make me oppose the law and do something to you to silence you. The Nazarene calmly replied, "Peace of the earth. Your words proceed not from true wisdom. So to the tyrant to stop in the midst of the mountain gorge. It will unproof the tree of the valley. The torrent will answer you that it obeys the law of nature of the Creator. It obeys the laws of nature of the Creator. Allah alone knows whither flow the water of the torrent. Verily I say unto you, before the rose of Sharon blossoms, the blood of the just shall be spilled. The blood of the just shall be spilled, meaning it's getting ready to happen before springtime, or before you can harvest in the spring. All right, your blood shall not be split, or Your blood shall not be spilled, said I, with deep emotion. You are more precious in my estate. Hold on. You are more precious in my estimation on account of your wisdom than all of the turbulent and proud Pharisees whose abused the freedom granted by the Romans. They conspire against Caesar and convert his bounty into fear, impressing the unlearned that Caesar is a betrayer, Caesar is a tyrant and seeks their ruin. Insolent wretches, they are not aware that the wolf of the Tiberius sometimes clothed himself with the skin of the sheep or the skin of sheep to accomplish his wicked design. I will protect you against them. My praetorium, my praetorium shall be an asylum both day and night. The watch is written in the books of the prophets must be accomplished. That which is written in the books of the prophets must be accomplished. Salafi individuals, this is a lot. I've been doing a lot of reading, and this is my second time reading this. Yahweh Shah carelessly shook his head and said with a grave and divine smile, when the days shall come, there shall be no asylum for the Son of Man, neither in the earth nor under the earth. The asylum of the just is there, pointing in the heavens. That which is written in the books of the prophets must be accomplished. Young man, I answered mildly. You will oblige me to convert my request into an order. The safety of the province, which has been confined to my care, requires it. You must observe more moderate in your discourse to not infringe my order. You know the consequences. May happiness attain you. Farewell. So this is after Pontius Pilate talked to Yahweh Shah. I came not to bring war into the war, but peace, love, and charity to the poor, to the Israelites. Alright, peace to the war, replied Yahweh Shah. I come not to bring war into the world, but peace, love, and charity. I was born the same day on which Augustus Caesar gave peace to the Roman world. Caesar gave peace to the Roman world. Alright. Persecutions proceeded not from me. I expect it from others, and I will meet it in obedience to the will of my Father. To the obedience to the will of my Father, who has shown me the way. Restrain therefore your worldly prudence. It is not in your power to arrest the victim at the foot of the tabernacle of the expiation. So saying, he disappeared like a bright shadow behind a curtain of the ballistica. To my great refile, for I felt a heavy burden on me, of which I could not relieve myself of in his presence. So saying, he disappeared like a bright shadow behind the curtains of the ballistica. To my great refile, for I felt a heavy burden on me, of which I could not refile myself of in his presence. He just could not overfill that burden. Yahweh Shah appeared to be one of those great philosophers that great nations sometimes produce. To Herod, who the regainer or to Herod, who then reigned in Galilee. Oh yeah, who then reigned in Galilee. The enemies of Yahushua dressed themselves to wreak their vengeance, or to wreak. Hold on. To Herod, who then reigneth in Galilee. The enemies of Yahushua dressed themselves to wreak their vengeance on the Nazarene. Had Herod consulted his own inclinations, he would have ordered Yahushua immediately put to death. But though proud of his loyal or royal dignity, yet he hesitated to commit an act that might lessen his influence with the Senate, or like me, was afraid of Yahushua, But it would never do for the Roman officer to be afraid of Yahushua. Previously to this, Herod called on me at the praetorium, and on rising to take leave, after some terrifying or after some trifling conversation, I guess short conversation, I asked me what was my opinion concerning the Nazarene. I replied that Yahushua or Jesus appeared to me to be one of those great philosophers that great nations sometimes produce, that his doctrines were by no means sacrilegious, and that the intentions of Rome were to leave him to that freedom of speech which was justified by his actions. Herod smiled maliciously and saluting me with the ironical respect departing. So then, I left, clamoring for the death of the Nazarene, the great feast of the Jews, the Passover, the great feast of weeks, the great feast of the Jews was approaching, and the intentions was to avail themselves of the popular exaltation which always manifests itself at the Solomonites of the Passover. The city was overflowing with the tumultuous populace. I guess a lot of people clamoring for the death of Yahushua or the Nazarene, for the death of the Nazarene. My insincerities informed me that the treasure of the temple had been employed in bringing the people. The danger was pressing. A Roman centurion had been insulted. I wrote to the prefect of Syria for 100-foot soldiers. So he just asked Assyria for help for 100-foot soldiers and as many cavalry. He declared, I saw myself alone with a handful of veterans in the midst of the rebellious city, too weak to suppress an uprising, and having no choice left but to tolerate it. They had seized upon Yahushua and the sedition rabble, although they had nothing to, rabble, I guess like rabble tyrants, rabbles or rabbles, or they rabble. And although they had nothing to fear from the Praetorian, Praetorian, believing as their leaders had told them that I winked at their sedition, continued vociferating, crucify him. So basically, they kept on just saying it over and over, crucify him. After they grabbed a hold of Yahushua on the night of the Passover, after he was betrayed. The powerful parties had combined together at that time against Yahushua. First, the Herodians, and the Sadducees, whose sedition conduct seemed to have proceeded from double motives. They hated the Nazarene and were impatient of the Romans' yoke. They wanted more, the Rome to get a hold of them more, a tighter rope. I'm like, this is making me hot. All right, they never forgave me for having entered the holy city with banners that bore the image of Rome, of the Roman emperor. And although in this instance I had committed a fatal error, yet the sacrifice did not appear less heinous in their eyes. Another grievance also rankled in their bosom. I had proposed to employ a part of the treasure of the temple in erecting edifices for public use. My proposal was scorned. The Pharisees were the avowed enemies of the Jews. So by vow, they are enemies of the Jews. They cared not for the government. They bore with brightness to serve. They bore with brightness the severe rampart which the Nazarene for 3 years had been continually giving them wherever he went. Timid and too weak to act by themselves, they had embraced the quarrels of the Herodians and the Sadducees. Besides these 3 parties, I had to continue against the reckless and propagated populace, always ready to join sedition and profit by the disorder and confusion that resulted therefore. Condemned to death. And these are all Salathia, these are all Pontius Pilate's words, not no one else's. He's talking about Yahushua. Death, commanded to death. Yahushua was dragged before the high priest and condemned to death. It was then that the high priest Caiaphas conformed as a divisory act of submission. He sent his prisoner to me to confirm. He sent his prisoner to me to confirm his condemnation and secure his execution. I answered him that as Yahushua was a Galilean, the afar came under Herod's jurisdiction and ordered him to be sent thither. The willing Teriach professed humility and protested his differences to the lieutenant of Caesar. He committed the fate of the man to my hand. So my place assumed the aspect of as besieged citadel. Every moment increased the number of malcontents. Jerusalem was inundated with crowds from the mountains of Nazareth. All Judea appeared to be pouring into the city. Beware, beware, and touch not that him or that man, for he is holy. I have taken a wife from among the Gauls, who pretended to see into the future, weeping and throwing herself at my feet. She said to me, beware, beware, and touch not that man, for he is holy. Last night I saw a vision. He was walking on the water. He was flying on the wings of the wind. He spoke to the tempest and to the fish of the lake, and were obedient, and all were obedient to him. Behold, the torrent of Mount Kedron flows with blood. The statues of Caesar are filled with Gamadine. The columns of the interior have given away, and the sun is vile in the morning, like a vessel in the tomb. Ah, Pilate, evil awaits thee, if thou wilt not listen to the vows of thy wife. Dread the curse of a Roman Senate. Dread the frowns of Caesar. By this time the marble star groaned under the weight of the multitude. It was a lot of people out there, right? With the ground, that's the platform. It was like, The Nazarene was brought back to me. I proceeded to the halls of justice, followed by my guard, and asked the people in a severe tone what they demanded. The death of the Nazarene was the reply. For what crime? He blasphemed. He has prophesied the ruin of the temple. He calls himself the Son of God, the Messiah. He calls himself the Son of God, the Messiah, the King of all Jews, or the King of the Jews. Roman justice, said I, punishes not such offenses with death. Crucify him, the scribes, the Sadducees, they pushing them people that's following that Talmud and doing this, they was pushing to crucify him. It was just, he spoke for the poor, he spoke for the weak, he spoke for the humble, he spoke for the slaves. So crucify him, cried the relentless rebels. The vociferations of the infuriated mob shook the palace of its foundations. There was but one who appeared to be calm in the midst of the vast multitude. It was the Nazarene. As many fruitless attempts to protect him from the fury of the merciless prosecutors, I adopted a means which at the moment appeared to me to be the only one that could save his life. I proposed a measure, as it was custom to deliver a promise on such occasions, to release Yahushua and let him go free, that he might be the scapegoat, as they call it. But they said Yahushua must be crucified. I then spoke to them of the inconsistencies of their course as being incapable with their laws, incompatible with their laws, showing that no criminal judge could pass sentence on a criminal unless he had fasted one whole day. He had fasted one whole day, and that the sentence must have the consent of the Sanhedrin and the signature of the president of that court. That no criminal could be executed on that same day. His sentence was fixed, and the next day, on the day of his execution, the Sanhedrin was required to review the whole proceeding, also according to their law, and no man was stationed at the door of the court with a flag, and another a short way off on horseback to cry the name of the criminal and his crime, and the names of the witnesses, and to know if anyone could testify in his favor. And the prisoner on his way to be executed had the right to turn back 3 times and to plead any new thing in his favor. I urged all of these pleas, hoping that they might awe them into subjection by the cry, "Crucify him, crucify him." I then called for the basin and washed my hands. So Pontius Pilate is like, look, these scribes and Sadducees, I don't know what, they just really don't like you, Yahushua, and I think I know why. Because they're trying to push their government upon you, and we have the same problems with them too. But hey, now that they're coming in with me, they're in political positions, and it's a great multitude of them. So, he then just washed his hands. I then ordered Yahushua to be scourged, hoping this might signify or satisfy them. Just stick them a little bit, and y'all cool now? Hoping that this might satisfy them, but it only increased their fury. I then called for the basin to wash my hands in the presence of the clamorous multitude, thus testifying that in my judgment Yahushua of Nazareth had done nothing deserving of death, but in vain. It was his life that reached thirst for, that wretched thirst for, but in vain. It was his life that these wretches thirst for. They wanted to kill Yahushua. And anyway, so just keep going. Often in our civilized commotions, have I witnessed the furious anger of the multitude, but nothing could be compared with what I witnessed on this occasion. I might have been truly said to all that the phantoms of the infernal regions had assembled at Jerusalem. The crowd appeared not to walk, but to be born of and whirled as a vortex, rolling along in living waves from the portals of the Praetorium even into Mount Zion, with howling screams, shrieks, and voracious such as were never heard in the seditions of a Panamania or in the tumults of the forum. They were going off. They were saying some stuff. By degree, the day darkened like a winter's night twilight. By degree, the day darkened like a winter's twilight, such as had been at the death of the great Julius Caesar. It was likewise the Ides of March in March, the Passover, the Ides of March, the continued governor of a rebellious province, which leaning against a column of my ballistic, contemplating athwart the dreary gloom. These fiends of Tartarus, dragging to execution the innocent Nazarene. All around me was deserted. Jerusalem had vomited forth her indwellers through the infernal gates that led to Germanica. An air of desolation and sadness enveloped me. My guards have joined the cavalry, and the centurion with a distressed play of power, was endeavoring to keep order. I was left alone, and my breaking heart abonished me that was passing at the moment appertain rather to the history of the gods than that of men. A loud clamor was heard direct or proceeding from Galilee or Galatica, which bore on the wind seemed to announce an agony such as war never heard by mortal ears. Dark clouds lowered over the pinnacle of the temple and setting over the city covered it as a veil. So dreadful were the signs that men saw in the heavens and on the earth. The Areopagite is reported to have exclaimed, either the author of nature is suffering or the universe is falling apart. Whilst these appealing scenes of nature were transpiring, there was a dreadful earthquake in the lower Egypt, which filled everybody with fear and scared the superstitious Jews almost to death. It is said Balthazar, an aged and lean Jew of Antioch was found dead after the excitement was over. So Balthazar just died. Whether he died from alarm or grief, it was not known. He was strong. He was a strong friend of the Nazarene. Wow. The sacrifice was consummated. Near the first hour of the night, I threw my mallet around me, and went down into the city toward the gates of Golgotha. The sacrifice was consummated. The crowd was returning home still. Agitated, it is true, but gloomy, testial, and desperate, tactarium, and desperated with what they had witnessed had stricken them with terror and remorse. I also saw my little Roman cohort pass by mournfully. The standard bearer having veiled his eagle in token of grief and overheard some of the Jewish soldiers murmuring strange words which I did not understand. Others were recounting miracles verily, like those which have so often smitten the Romans by the will of gods. Sometimes groups of men and women will halt, remain mentionless in expectations of witnessing some new prodigy. They all slunk off like coward curs. Cowardly curs, quitters. I returned to the praetorium sad and pensive, and ascended the stairs, the steps of which were still stained with the blood of the Nazarene. I perceived an old man in a suppliant posture, and behind him several Romans in tears. He threw himself at the feet and wept most bitterly. It is painful to see an old man weep, and in my heart being already overcharged with grief, we though strangers wept together. And in truth it seemed that the tears lay very shallow that day with many of whom I perceived in a vast concourse of people. I never witnessed such an extreme vulnerabilism of feelings. Those who betrayed him and sold him, those who testified against him, those who cried, crucify him, where he has blood, where we have his blood, crucify him, we have his blood, all slunk off like cowardly curs. All slunk off like cowardly scribes and Sadducees slunk off like cowardly curs, and washed their teeth with vinegar, And I am told that Yahushua taught a resurrection and a separation after death. If such be the fact, I am sure it commenced in this vast crowd. I am sure they talked about it. Father, say I to him, after gaining control of my feelings, who are you, and what is your request? Permission to bury Yahushua of Nazareth. I am Joseph of Arimathea. It's like, well, that's what the guys, I am Joseph of Arimathea, replied he, and I am come to beg of you upon bended knees the permission to bury Yahushua of Nazareth. Your prayer is granted, I said to him. I order Manlius to take some soldiers with him to superintend the interment, lest it should be profane. A few days after the sepulchre was empty, so we have a witness here by Pontius Pilate that Joseph of Arimathea did come to him for his body, and he writes that in this suspected letter. I'll say it like that, but it's lining up word for word with the scriptures. I'll continue. A few days after the sepulchre was found empty, his disciples proclaimed all over the country that Yahushua is risen from the dead, as he had foretold. The creator of excitement, even then the crucifixion. And to its truth, I cannot say for certain, but I have made some investigations of the matter, so you can examine for yourself if I am in fault, as Herod represents. Joseph buries Yahushua in his own tomb. Whether he contemplated his resurrection or calculated to cut him another, I cannot tell. The day after he was buried, one of the priests came to the praetorium or Patreon and said they were apprehensive that his disciples intended to steal the body of Yahweh Shai and hide it, and then make it appear that he had risen from the dead, as he had foretold, and of which they were perfectly convinced. I sent him to the captain of the royal Malchus to tell him to take the Jewish soldier and place as many around the sepulchre were needed. Then, if anything should happen, they could blame themselves and not the Romans. When a great excitement aroused about the sepulchre being empty, I felt when the great excitement arose about the sepulchre being empty, I felt a deeper solitude than ever. I sent for Malchus, who told me he had placed his lieutenant Ben Isham with 100 soldiers around the sepulchre. He told me that Isham and the soldiers were very much alarmed at what had occurred. There that morning, I sent for this man Isham, who related to me as near as I can recall the following circumstances. He said that about the beginning of the fourth watch, that's the time frame, he saw a soft and beautiful light over the sepulchre. He at first thought the woman had come to embalm the body of Yahweh Shai as their custom, but he could not see how they had gotten through the guards. While these thoughts were passing through his mind, behold, the whole place was lit up. With there seemed to be crowds of the dead in their grave clothes. Wow, a supernatural occurrence. They witnessed they seen what they believed a supernatural occurrence. While these thoughts were passing through in his mind, behold, the whole place was lit up, and there seemed to be crowds of the dead in their grave clothes. All seemed to be shouting and filled with etikos, while all around and above was the most beautiful music he had ever heard, and the whole air seemed to be filled with voices praising Elohim, praising God. At this time there seemed to be a revealing and swimming of the earth, At this time there seemed to be a reeling and a swimming of the earth, and so that he turned sick and fainted, that he could not stand on his feet. He said the earth seemed to swim under his feet, and his senses left him, so that he knew not what did occur. So it's like he swayed, then he passed out. I asked him if he could not have been mistaken as to the light. Was it not day that was coming in the east? He said at fourth watch. He said at first he thought of that. So this is right before daybreak or twilight, I guess. Okay. So he said at first he said he thought of that, but at a stone's cast it was exceedingly dark. Okay, so it was still dark. And then he remembered. It was too early for day. It was too early in the morning for day. I asked him if his dizziness might Might it not come from being awkwardly or awakening and getting up too suddenly, as sometimes had the effect. He said he was not, and he had not been asleep all night, as the penalty was of death for him to be, or for him to sleep on duty. He said he had left some of the soldiers sleep at a time, so some were asleep then. All right, so I guess they had sleeping rotations. I asked him how long the sentence lasts. He said he did not know, but he thought it was nearly an hour. He said it was hid by the light of the day. It was hid by the light of the day. I asked him if he had went to the sepulchre after he had come to himself. All right, so hold on. Let me back up here for a second. All right. A little bit of personal gratification. All right. He said he had left some of the soldiers sleep at a time. Some were asleep then. I asked him how long the scene lasted. He said he did not know, but he thought it was nearly an hour. He said it was hid by the light of day. It was hid by the light of day. Okay, so by the light of day, that moment was over. Hid by the light of day. Okay, I could go on. I asked him if he went to the sepulchre after he had come to himself. He said no, because he was afraid that just as soon as relief came, they all went to their quarters. I asked him if he had been questioned by the priest. He said he had. They wanted him to say it was an earthquake and that they were asleep, and offered him money to say that the disciples came and stole Yahushua's body. But we saw no disciples. He did not know that the body was gone until he was told. I asked him what was the print. So he didn't even know. So he was like this. Oh, what it was. So look, here goes some money. Act like somebody came and stole it. All right. I asked him what was the private opinion of those priests he had conversed with. He said that some of them thought that Yahushua was no man, that he was not a human being, that he was not the son of Mary, that he was not the same that was said to be born of a virgin in Bethlehem, that the same person had been on earth before with Abraham and Lot, and at many times and at many places. It seemed to me that if the Jewish theory be true, these conclusions are correct, for they are in accord with this man's life. They are in accord with this man's life, as is known and testified by both friends and foes, for the elements were no more in his hands than the clay in his hands of the potter. He could convert water into wine. He could change death into life, disease into health. He could calm the seas, still the storms, call up fish with a silver coin in his mouth. Call a fish with a silver coin in his mouth. Now I say, if he could do all of these things, which he did, and many more, as Jews all attest, and it was doing these things that created these enmity against him. He was not charged with criminal offenses, nor was he charged with violating any law, nor of wrongful or wronging any individual in person. And all of these facts are known to thousands, as well by his foes as by his friends. I am almost ready to say as did Manlius at the core, at the Manlius, just did Manlius at the cross. Truly, this was the Son of God. A witness to Yahweh's existence. Oh, we're near the end. I did not realize that. I mean, gosh, like I said before. All right. Now, noble Sovereign, this is as near as the facts in a case as I can arrive at. I have taken pains to make the statement very full, so that you may judge of my conduct upon the whole. As I hear, Antipater has said many hard things of me in this matter, with the promises of faithfulness and good wishes to my noble sovereign. I am your obedient servant, Pontius Pilate. This letter backs up the biblical account of the events of the life, ministry, crucifixion, resurrection of Hamashiach Yahweh. Oh, wow. So that with that being said, a letter by Pontius Pilate, it was just awesome. It had my emotions going to and fro so much that it was affecting my reading. So I just wanted to just try to like take it easy and just remove my feelings from it while reading it. It worked a little bit. But with that, I want to say all praises to the Most High, Yahweh Bahashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shah, for this particular Sabbath day. I'm going to go ahead and close out with the Shema. Shema O Yisrael, Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh Echad, Ve'ahavta et Yahweh Elohaicha, V'chol levavcha, V'chol neshefcha, V'chol mehodecha, Et lo yakalet latir, Tawara or Tawara, Yahweh Tada Rabbah, Yahweh Elohaicha, Bahashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shah, Uven Barak, Ruach Kodesheka. Stay blessed, stay at peace, stay one with the Father. Stay one with the Father.